Boom, boom.
Hello, everybody. How are we all doing tonight?
Hey, hey, hey. What is going on?
Not
Mindset of
much.
Fitness, MOF. How is your Monday going there, Ryan?
Busy, but good.
Awesome, awesome.
2022 is starting to shape up to be quite the crapshoot for a number of different reasons. But otherwise, man, it's been good. How was yours? How's your week been?
It's been great. It's been really good. Back in the swing of things. 1 week into the semester, university semester at the university I'm at, just started up again. So
Nice.
we are all systems a go there. Um, so it's nice to be, feels nice to be doing something again, really. I've been off for almost a full month, kind of just doing whatever I want. And now I've got a pretty regular stream of emails coming in from concerned students.
Oh,
They're you,
snap.
yeah, those are usually pretty common in the first couple of weeks, and then you don't really hear from them again until the last couple of weeks, at least in this online version of university or school or whatever.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been an interesting transition getting used to the new normal there.
Oh man, it's been nuts. We first yeah, I've been online. It's crazy to think about, but we went online and I've been online since March of 2020. So it's about
Nice.
to hit, yeah, the 2 year mark that I've been kind of ousted from the front of the classroom and to behind the curtain of yeah, the internet, the internet here.
Probably a good segue to bring it back to the Hexkins and why we're doing the stream again. Guys, a lot has changed in the past year, culturally speaking, especially with our activity levels. If you're working from home and not being as active, just because of what's been going down the past couple of years. And tonight, what we're really going to be talking a lot about is correctly timing weight loss as it pertains to a very dynamic and changing cultural environment, right? From a work life perspective, from an activity level perspective, from a changing, nutritional perspective. We're eating out more than ever now. We're doing Grubhub. We're eating at higher calorie count places. So correctly structuring weight loss and how to time it properly is really going to be the main topic tonight, because it is such an individualistic topic to go over and talk about, honestly, because everybody's so unique and different, right? Their work life, all these things we just went over, they're all very unique to that person. So feel free to put in questions, comments as we kind of go through some of this stuff. I got some really cool stuff to go over. Exercise got a lot of really cool stuff to go over, but some really cool things we're going to cover tonight that hopefully gives you guys a more thorough understanding on how to structure weight loss in a way that makes sense. We forget we do this with our college degrees, we do it with our professional careers, and even our relationships to an extent. So we got to do the same thing here to try to keep some organization and make sure that it makes sense. That's probably the line I'll always go back to. But yeah, I don't know if you want to start exercise or if we should just get right into things, or ask if anybody has any questions, see how people's weeks went so far.
Sure. Could check in with the chat real quick, see what's going on there. I see we've got a quick question here from Philly Steaks. Are you boys going to that Vegas Hexpo conference in March? I can't speak for Ryan, but I will not be going. One day, I do plan to be at one of the meetups or the conferences, though. I think it would be, yeah, a lot of fun. I've just watched from afar the past meetups and conferences that have gone down, and yeah, they do look like a blast. So one day soon.
I will not, but I'm really hoping that they come to Dallas. I'm in Dallas, so I
Oh
really
yeah,
hope they come to
yeah,
Dallas.
yeah.
I'm just so busy right now. I really want to go to some Hex events. Honestly, I've been following like Kareem and Matt Yellen and all the cool people that are doing the events and stuff. So hopefully they do one in Texas here soon. I know the Texas community for Hex is growing quite rapidly, which is awesome. So, but yeah, I'm not going to be going to that one, fortunately.
Yeah, yeah. The online conference makes it pretty nice to follow along, and especially it kind of made sense with all the other shit that's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, one day in person would be a blast. Vegas is a blast in and of itself. So if you're going Philly Steaks, have a great time. Enjoy. Won't be there yet, but one day soon. What was the other thing I wanted to do before we really got kicked off and going was I saw a comment on our last video that I really, really liked. It was at the very end of that fundamentals video when we were talking about the energy balance, Ryan.
Yeah.
And I brought up my beautiful little drawing. I'm sure everybody can remember that. I drew this beautiful bank here I drew a person. I drew some dollar signs. It was pretty amazing. So if that's not etched into your brain, go back and watch that. But this comment from
That was a great drawing.
Tin Top was transform your energy out greater than energy in. Spend your energy, not your hex. This was the analogy that I really, really liked. Ryan had a good analogy that he made when you're counting calories in terms of like equating that to a balance sheet or to your bank account number. And if you're spending more than you're making, well, you are in trouble. So the situation or the example is very, very similar when it comes to weight loss. If that's what we're targeting is weight loss, it's just in the inverse scenario. So this really, really wrapped it up in a great way. Spend your energy, not your hex. So if your goal is to create a calorie deficit, we want to spend a lot of energy. We don't want to save our energy. But in our when we are talking about our financial health, we really want to save our money, right? So it's just a really it's an inverse example, and Tin Top did a great job here, I think, of just summing that up in 2 sentences. Energy out greater than energy in. Spend your energy, not your hex. I think that's
I forgot about that comment.
Right there. So that was awesome. So that was just, I think, the one thing that I wanted to kind of hit on before we kicked it off. Maybe just a reminder that this series, at least from here on up so far, it has been us trying to build basically a what would you say, like a working video series for how you could go about setting up your own personal lifelong system to maintain, gain, or lose weight, or to achieve whatever health status you're really looking to achieve. So from episode 1 all the way down the line here, we might introduce a few other types of segments, but we're really trying to provide the information and the tools to allow you to do it on your own. So yeah, today's segment is going to be looking at really how to go about setting up for some sort of weight loss phase or some sort of time in which you're really focusing in on trying to directly lose weight. Oh, I saw here from Philly Steaks. I'm coming from Canada and would love to hit the gym with you guys. I am also in Canada, Philly Steaks. So I imagine like Canada's a pretty big place. You're probably not in the same area I am.
Yeah, it is.
Lots of people, especially like in the United States, when I first went down there, it's a pretty common or a pretty funny meme that people just think you know another person from Canada. This will
So
date
dumb.
me pretty hard, but like probably 20 years ago or so, there was a pretty funny beer commercial for like the beer called Canadian, and it was just like some Canadians down in the United States, and it was like, oh, so do you know Bob? Or something along those lines. So everyone, I think, or not everyone, but lots of people in the USA think that Canada is like quite small, but it is massive. So I'm over in Vancouver, and yeah, one day, if we're ever at a conference, if I'm ever at a conference, you can be certain that we will organize some sort of lifting session. That would be great. That would be awesome.
That'd be sick. I'm surprised we haven't seen that in the Hex community yet. You know, like a group of Hexkins that are just working out together. I haven't seen like a picture of that on Twitter going around or anything like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be the first to get it.
Let's do it.
The gym situation is kind of in an awkward spot though, depending on like where you're at in the world.
Yeah.
Though, to be fair.
Yeah. Depending
in the US, like every state's a different setting and situation. So
yeah,
maybe we have to be a bit more patient on that.
Yeah, like I think in British Columbia, I think gyms are currently closed. I think they're about to open again, but I think they're currently closed right now. So
yeah, all my Canadian clients are saying that they're closed right now, so that would make sense. But yeah, regardless of the gyms being closed, the good news is Hexkins can lose weight very effectively. That's the good news. You don't need the gym. Gym's a great tool, but not the only tool. That's a future conversation.
Gym's an awesome tool.
I think a good way to start, man, is on mine at least to start by going over not structure itself, but what people are actually doing when they go into a weight loss phase. I think that allows you guys to better wrap your head around why structure is important. So what I'm going to go over real quick is an analogy. I have a ton of these. I'm sorry, they're kind of shitty, but they're really effective at conveying kind of why weight loss is the way it is. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about is what's called the weight loss casino. It's something I use for everybody that I work with, especially in the group that I manage. And it's really effective in conveying why weight loss is a super dicey experience. It's not necessarily the most fun. And it can get really hairy depending on what's going on, right? With the lockdowns or the work-life balance, all these things, right? So what I really mean by the weight loss casino is when we're doing a weight loss phase, you got to understand that we're going into a casino, and the longer we're in there, no matter how much weight we lose or don't lose, the longer we're in the casino, the more drunk and tired we get, period. It is not fun tracking calories or trying to lose weight. And the more we're doing it psychologically, it does take a toll, especially with cultural pressures on top of it. So the point is the longer you're in there, the worse decision making you're going to have because you're more tired and drunk. The point being is we want to structure that visit to the casino in a way that makes sense for you, right? So structuring in a way that makes sense could mean, hey, we're going to the casino, and when we first go in, we're typically feeling good. We're not overly drunk. We're making good decisions, and we're winning hands at the poker table. We're losing weight. We're feeling good. But then eventually things get more difficult, and then the weight loss becomes more difficult, and we're making worse decisions, and we're wondering why, when really it's just a byproduct of how weight loss is. It is a time-gated thing. It is not designed to be for a long time from a psychological perspective or a metabolic perspective. So the point being is being able to go into the casino with discipline, win hands that are a high probability chance of winning, aka easy, smooth weight loss that makes sense, and then getting out of the casino without risking all that in a way that also is structured and makes sense, is why it is so important to have good structure and to time your weight loss properly. Because most people, if you just think about people around you may know that are losing weight, they go into a weight loss phase and they're pushing it during times that don't make sense. There's no real structure. They're losing weight during the holidays. They're losing weight going into a vacation. They're losing weight during a really critical work-life experience or transition period in their lives, or they're super stressed, or all the above. And I get that sometimes you just need to lose weight and it's a drastic thing. But most of the time, almost all the time, I notice people are much more effective at losing weight quicker with good structure because they're actually successful with it. What's the point of rushing the process and then failing at it once every year or 2 years just to be 10 years in and not really seeing any actual, measurable progress, versus with good structure being done in a year and a half, but then you're actually done forever. So the weight loss casino is really an analogy for you guys to understand the fact that weight loss is not designed to be a super fun thing. And when you structure it with timeframes that make sense, on a timetable that makes sense, that works for you, it allows you to execute on a much more positive wavelength. But yeah, the weight loss casino is really crazy. And I will say this, the casino is really a reference to the weight loss industry, because the weight loss industry is just like a casino in that they want you to win a little bit, but they don't want you to win all the way. And the money always ends up going back to the house, unfortunately. So of course you want to be that one person that goes in, that wins money, is effective, doesn't get greedy, doesn't push weight loss too late, and then gets out successfully. And then you rinse and repeat it based on how much weight you do want to lose. So I don't know how you feel about that exercise, but that's the old weight loss casino analogy. I think it works really well with kind of understanding why structure makes sense, why it needs to make sense, rather.
Yeah, no, I like that analogy a lot. And I think I agree with how you applied it the whole way through. I think it relates to a lot of things. I think as we go along here, I'll try to kind of like incorporate some of the more kind of like hard and fast physiology behind some of these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like that analogy. If you're in there for a long period of time, the house has the advantage. Being in a weight loss or in a energy deficit for a long period of time is probably not a great idea. So if you are looking to enter the casino or enter an energy deficit, it is definitely a good idea to have a plan. And typically, again, a lot of things you said, or a lot of the like things, analogies just within a casino would apply in a similar way. Like it's probably best not to risk absolutely everything, right? So going into a extremely aggressive calorie deficit is probably not a smart thing, as opposed to going into a more moderate one, like setting a limit and staying within it. I'm not going to go in and bet my house on one hand of blackjack. I'm not going to try and lose 10 pounds in 1 week, right? So yeah, a lot of these concepts do directly apply. I like it a lot, that analogy.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is, some people do work better with, maybe a smaller deficit, and then they're losing weight for 3 to 4 months. But honestly, like what I've seen really is the trend here is with what's went down in 2020, 2021, losing weight in the current cultural state of things. What I've seen is a really good rule of thumb is having a structure set up of 2 months for weight loss and then reassessing from there. Because you could be in the weight loss casino, right, for 2 months, And for some reason, some crazy stressors come into your life that make it very difficult to stay sustainable on a lower calorie intake, right? We're not throwing out numbers here. Just assume lower calorie means a deficit. We're actually losing weight. But the point being is maybe you have a passing in the family, maybe something happens at work, maybe something happens with the kids, and then you have to devote more time to the family at that point in time, which pulls away from some of the fitness stuff. The point being is things can happen in the casino. This is really the extension of the analogy of being in the weight loss casino. Shit can hit the fan while you're in the casino that's not at all your fault. That impacts your timeline and your structure and all that stuff. That's why timing weight loss, being able to maneuver it, is important. So the point being is a timeline of 2 months. If you guys are going into a weight loss phase anytime soon, I would really encourage you to start with a 2-month window. And then really from there, assess as things go. If you feel amazing after the 2 months and you're down in weight and that deficit's still working good and things feel good from a hunger standpoint, a psychological standpoint, stress standpoint, then maybe there's more hands to be won at the poker table. Continue to get weight loss as long as it makes sense to do so. But it's a really good time frame because I feel like people can really wrap their heads around a 2-month time frame very effectively, and it doesn't feel like freaking forever that you're trying to lose weight and because you're pulling away from a lot of stuff to lose weight. You're making those small sacrifices. So 2 months is a pretty good rule of thumb. Obviously, everybody's very different. I have clients that sometimes lose weight for 6 months in a row because it makes a ton of sense. They typically do have more weight to lose, of course, and there's differing factors for this. But structure is such a unique thing. And actually, if you could you pull up just the screen I have shared of that truck driver real quick?
Right there.
Yes, sir. So yeah, we have a very happy truck driver here, but the reason why we have this up is because what I see as a dominant player in weight loss is the reality of it is your work life as well as your family life. I'm not going to touch the family life stuff because it's a very personal thing, but the easy one to talk about, and you could extrapolate the principles from this into the family life or the day-to-day life, is the work-life balance and understanding that, a structure for a truck driver, for example, who may be driving on the weekends is going to be very different if they're driving at all hours of the night versus a normal person with a 9-to-5 remote work job now, who may have other issues going on in their life that has nothing to do with his. So his structure probably will not make sense at all with someone else's. No different than if there's a nurse that has a night shift schedule and then shifts to a day shift schedule every other 2 weeks. Their structure is all over the place, so, and in their case, they may actually want to do a super short window of time in the casino because that's pretty taxing, going from a day to a night shift over and over again with the crazy schedules that the healthcare has right now. So the point is, the reason why you have a super healthy or happy, I don't know if he's healthy or not, happy truck driver on the screen right now is to show you guys that there are things that are external, right? Externalities coming into weight loss that have nothing to do with the numbers, that impact it more greatly than the numbers do most of the time. Calories are important. Tracking them is important. Understanding the numbers and the scale and all that stuff is important. But without good structure that works for you in your schedule, in your lifestyle, that allows you to be sustainable, it doesn't matter what the numbers say. Look at everybody who loses weight pretty effectively for their first few months, and then because of bad structure, what do you think happens? The money goes back to the house. They have a bad experience at the casino, and they typically don't go back, not at least anytime soon. So I don't know if anybody is in here watching right now with a different job profession. Feel free to shoot it out, and I can give you kind of like a makeshift structure that could make sense. Or if somebody is in here potentially interested in losing weight, feel free to post stuff up or your experiences in the past on things that have worked well or have not worked well with structure. Because a lot of times, man, when I see people pushing in the weight loss, there's these things called red flags that come up when you're losing weight that cause things to be very difficult. Red flags as in high stress, as in high hunger because food preparation wasn't maybe super critical, super low sleep. That's one of the biggest ones I see. Sleep and lack of sleep is like a dieter's worst enemy. And I'm sure we could pull up some peer-reviewed analysis on irritability and hunger and lack of sleep and how they all correlate. Exercise can potentially back me on that. I'd actually be curious to see what that looks like. But from my experience, lack of sleep is a big one. And go figure, people are stressed right now. It's tough to do this right now. So the point is being able to structure this in a way that makes sense in a very dynamic and changing culture is a big deal. I don't know if you've seen that with yourself exercise if you in your weight loss phases before, but I know mine have drastically changed over the past really forever. Honestly, since I was like 25 to 28, it was pretty simple because my lifestyle didn't change too much. But then when I moved down to Texas, everything got crazy. So everything had to change. You have to be very flexible with this stuff. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I've worked really hard on kind of like drilling in a like a like a science mindset here, where I try to make it as black and white as possible, but there are so many variables going on in the background. It's really tough to fathom. So just like sleep and mood and like underlying hormones, like just to mention like the tip of the iceberg, there are so many things.
Yeah.
But overall, all of those things do ultimately affect like this fundamental rule that we introduced last week of energy balance. So yeah, absolutely. Like sleep can be a massive thing, especially for some people more than others. I've never had a huge problem losing weight. The one thing I wanted to mention is that all of these same principles are going to apply to gaining weight or maintaining weight.
Yep.
It's just as beneficial to set up a plan and kind of have a game plan ready to go for whatever your outcome or whatever the outcome you want may be. Now, the current environment in most, if not every single developed country in the world, is that the majority of people are interested in losing weight, which is which is normal. But yeah, so when I was really getting into it, I had a big problem gaining weight back in the day. And it took me, yeah, a lot of just like trial and error, and really just like sitting down and being real and honest with myself. Like, hey, like if you're not gaining, like smarten up and like try harder is what it took. It took some tough love from myself to like actually understand like, hey, what you are currently doing is not working. You like I was just being introduced to some of these principles. Like I don't even think I was in kinesiology yet. So I didn't have any of like the education. I just knew like, hey, dude, like you think you're eating a lot, but you are not losing weight. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, my experience was a little bit of the inverse, but yeah, there are a innumerous number of variables that that are actually affected, whether you're in a deficit or a surplus. That it's it's so complicated. That it's nice to go back and reference just like, hey, like calories in, calories out. That's a great base layer to reference, but yeah, when it comes down, especially to like an individual level, yeah, it could be sleep that makes the literal difference for one person. It could be
Yeah.
it could be yeah, like making sure to eat before a certain time or eat after a certain, like it could be, yeah, so many different little like variables. Yeah, it's crazy how intricate it is while at the same time obeying like this one fundamental rule.
I actually have an example on you may relate to on that front. I just like the majority of people are looking to lose weight, of course. I've had people who I've worked with where, they have a stronger, faster metabolism by default and can't gain weight. And if you structure a period of time where they're looking to gain weight, like that can become a job in and of itself. I mean, you can get guys or girls anywhere from, 20 to 65 years of age eating upwards of 2,700 plus calories a day. And if someone's super busy and stressed and has not yet built the skill sets to be able to, intake that kind of calorie count because of all the other stuff going on in their life, they're going to have a rough time and probably a terrible experience trying to gain weight. And it's going to be frustrating.
Hmm.
So timing is so important because people are just kind of making things exponentially more difficult on themselves by not timing things correctly. And you really can never go wrong by starting January 1st, to be honest. Everybody starts then. And honestly, it is one of the best times to start because culturally there's less pressure. Like you try to lose weight during the holidays. If you're in America, man, you know what's going down.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what's going down. You're going to be made to feel not super great for even remotely caring about your health. And that's a discussion outside of what we're talking about right now. That could be its own freaking episode. But the point being is, yeah, the majority of my clients during the past, 3 months, November, December, some of them even Halloween, if they're big Halloween people, did reverse diets, maintain their weight, ate at very high calorie counts, got very clever and successful building that skill set on how to do so. And now we're able to lose weight with the rest of the world, except we have a built metabolism that's helping us along the way in the structure and the data. So the point being is, everybody could have good reasons and bad reasons at varying times to go into weight loss phase. I'm not discouraging people from going into it right now. There's no better time than right now to improve your health, but just know that there's different directions you can take this. And it doesn't always mean that weight loss is the first direction, or maybe the one that makes the most sense initially, depending on what's going on. You know, if it was like, hey, I'm about to go to Hawaii in 2 weeks, I'll be there for a month. Do you think I should lose weight, or should I just wait to care about this when I come home? I would say, well, first off, you should care about it now, but weight loss probably isn't the best method to do that. Right? I think that'd be fair. We can still build skill sets. We could still allow to mitigate weight gain during the trip, still give you a great experience. And then you know with the numbers what's actually going on and can make an informed decision on how to lose weight in a successful when you come home and not being higher in weight as well. So that's what I really mean by like, I'm not trying to discourage people from starting right now with weight loss. It's just, we got to be a little bit more clever about that stuff. Because if your first experience to the weight loss casino is a terrible one, most people don't go back. They don't. And if they do, and they have another bad experience, it just makes it even less of a chance they're going to go back. It's like people getting liquidated trading. They don't come back. They're done. They're liquidated. Like Richard Hart talks about, they're done. They're gone. Liquidated. You get the email from Binance, whoever, and that's it. You have a bad experience. F this dude, I'm out.
Yeah, you do not want to stay in that casino for too long.
No, you don't. It's definitely a finite period of time that your body allows you to be there hormonally, as well as yourself psychologically. It's not easy to do this. If we lived in a culture that was more supportive of weight loss, it would probably be more acceptable to say, hey, it makes more sense maybe, or it's more doable to stay in the casino for 4 months, for example. But nowadays, man, with what we have to deal with, I mean, shit, we could just ask what the people watching, what some of their most recent stressors are over the past year.
Yeah.
Just let the laundry list of things come through. It's like, yeah, that's got to coexist with weight loss somehow.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a really interesting topic. Oops. It's a really interesting topic. We haven't seen any comments yet, but I don't know if anybody in here has had times where they've tried to do weight loss, but stuff has gotten in the way. And by stuff, it could be anything. It could be a trip. It could be your work. It could be your schedule was too difficult to stick to it. I'm curious to hear if anybody has had things that have come up that have impacted weight loss that were also outside of just the standard, yeah, I didn't want to keep eating the food, because that's obviously part of it too. But
yeah, there is, yes, just so many episodes that you could make for like each and every variable that that applies to like the different hurdles or different obstacles that each individual or the average individual is going to have to overcome to try to stick to whatever their plan might be: weight loss, weight gain, weight maintenance.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I have too much else to add to structure other than I think I covered most of it, honestly. Structure is pretty simple, guys. The main takeaway from this is there's going to be a few topics that are incredibly simple in nature, but the complexity lies in the actual execution of it. Because most people, when a push comes to shove and you ask them like, hey, what's the timeline on your weight loss? Is there a goal you're trying to reach? And if it is a weight loss number goal, or a, hey, I need to lose weight until this date, you could tell that there's issues there, because that typically doesn't work out well for someone when they have a specific weight loss goal. Because go figure, before they get to that goal, something could happen that totally makes it nonsensical to keep losing weight, right? So things can happen and people will push through that. No, I got to hit 199 pounds. I have to hit that. How often do you see that? I have to hit 199 pounds. I got to lose these last 10 pounds to get there. Why? I mean, I've seen clients who are down 40 plus pounds that are incredibly stressed at the end of the game, are still wanting to stay in the casino. Stuff's going on with work, stuff with boyfriend issues, like whatever. There's just layers to this of things that could be going on. And instead of taking your 40 pounds of weight loss, all those winnings in the casino, and taking them safely and throwing them in the safe deposit box and leaving the casino and coming back when it makes more sense, they want to keep pushing. And that's where things get dicey. People don't understand that when you're losing weight, it's not really effective weight loss until your body composition and body weight set point have been given time to get used to your new body composition. That's why people regain weight so quickly. Yes, they're in a surplus after the fact, but your body is so much more susceptible to gaining that body fat back after it just lost it. So when you leave the casino in a safe way, giving your body weeks and time to adjust to what you had just done to it, while still retaining responsibility, that's going to really allow you to move forward in a concrete way. Because when people leave the casino, break all habits and go back to higher eating, that's when the money goes back to the house. And that's even more frustrating to see if you do weigh yourself and you see these things going up higher and higher. So, yeah, it's tough, man. It's really tough. And that's where it can get complex. It's like, well, where do we really know when to get out? It's like, trust me, when you view it in a way that just is just a sensible way, I call them red flags. Are you overly stressed? Is this going to be a long period of time? Is this just 2 days? Is this transitory, or is this the whole month? Are your activity levels super low now? Are you not able to go out and get your walks anymore? Are you not able to go to the gym anymore? Go for hikes anymore? Because the weather has changed and work is more demanding. And you've already lost 20 pounds. Why push for those last 3 pounds and risk everything? The risk to reward is not there, right? Look for these red flags that do typically present themselves the longer you stay in the casino. And it's not that you can't hit a real plateau in the casino. It's just 99% of the time, people can go lower in calorie or do more activity levels. So it's not like a real plateau is ever being hit. We could typically always go lower for the most part, but that's not usually the case, which is fair. We just have our levels. Like I'm sure actually you probably have a level of calories that you would just never go below, right? You probably have like a level you're just like, nope, this is my limit.
Yeah, I'd say pretty much. Depending on kind of like the time of year or like what's going on. Like I've been in the game for a while, so I'm pretty, I would say, accurate at just like eyeballing calorie counts. So there might be, I don't know, like 6, 8 months that I go without counting calories, and I'm really just more so watching a number on a scale or a like image in the mirror to help me with things. But it's also like you can always zoom out. So like one of the things you said there, like if you want to keep pushing, or if you're like really for some reason motivated to lose like really really fast for whatever reason, is to just, I think both of us are always going to encourage you to zoom out and take a longer time horizon to where you want to get to. In most cases, there's definitely going to be some cases where we can have like some rapid improvement or rapid weight loss or rapid gain, maybe, I think, depending on the context. But I think I'm most often going to like encourage people to zoom out and be like your day, like my daily intake should help sustain and like contribute to my weekly, monthly plan or goal, whether that's again gain, maintenance, or loss. But if I had a low day, like that's all right. It's I could have a slightly higher day tomorrow, or if you had a high day, have a slightly lower day tomorrow. It doesn't really work like that for some people, but like it's a really really good tool to use, is just to zoom out and just try to remind yourself that the short term usually doesn't really affect the long term, as long as you are adhering to some of those not policies, but like some of those ideals in place for the goal that's set. If you zoom out and you see where you're headed, like a one-off day or an up day or a down day isn't really going to make or break it. It's going to be the trend that's occurring day in and day out, or week over week, or month over month, in the more macro picture of things.
That's a good lead into the comment we got from Hexit. Probably going to pull up.
Let's pull it up.
Yeah, dude, this is a really important comment, because we're kind of we're going to bounce all over the place, but some of these questions are getting really good now. Like Hexercise just said, not getting caught up in the day-to-day and zooming out. And what really, I guess I could add on to that is you got to understand the scale as it pertains to progress is a very misunderstood tool. Think of it like somebody who's got a really complex job that's very misunderstood and is overworked, right? Is picking up all sorts of things for total body weight, not just body fat, right? There's so many things that can come in transitorily speaking and bring up that weigh-in. For example, if you're going hard and grinding and working out and you've worked out for the first time in a few months, in your journey recently, that alone, just the workout from the muscle inflammation, the water retention, glycogen stores, these things can bring your weight up, but it's not for any reasons that are bad. Nothing's exploding per se. So I would recommend, honestly, depending on how you look at it, and we will get into charting here pretty soon, so you can understand how to chart weigh-ins and understand how these things ebb and flow with the patterns. But looking at a more macro analysis, like Hexercise said, a zoomed out analysis. So focusing on the weekly averages, looking at the weekly deltas to see how your weigh-ins and the patterns are moving. Because typically what you'll find 80% of the time, the trend is your friend. Just like with Hex, man, for the most part, it's up and to the right. Like, yeah, you can pick and choose better entries, But for the most part, the trend is our friend there. And the same thing with weight loss. You know, if the trend is weight loss, plateaus typically happen very gradually, if they're real plateaus. So in your case, man, keep your head up and just know, weighing yourself daily. Think of it like the bank account. You know, the bank account took years or decades to build a good relationship with. It does take time to with the scale. And it is painful sometimes bringing that responsibility in, looking at the data analytics, but it makes you more aware of the patterns. So you can respond less emotionally to them. Kind of like the bank account. You know, you see a mortgage payment come through, and it may not be the most pretty thing on the planet. It may not be super happy to see it, but you know why it's there. You know the purpose of it. You see the pattern. You know when it comes out, etc. Right? So you may have patterns yourself where, hey, maybe you eat out on Friday, and even though your calories are in a good spot, it's super high sodium because you're getting Asian food, for example. And maybe your weigh-in does typically go up on a Saturday morning, and the trend shows that. But the delta from your last Saturday could be lower. And you may not even know if you're not looking at that. So sometimes it's just about figuring out what the actual, data is that makes sense, because there's a lot of correlations with these things. So you could actually pull up data that makes sense, and see a pattern that reflects that progress is being made. Yeah, perfect. Trend is your friend right there, right now, right?
Yeah.
Probably not the best time to look at the chart, but
so this is again going to be an inverse analogy. But like if I am looking at this, what do I have here? I get to look all the way back. I've never used TradingView before. I'm not a huge charter myself, but we're looking all the way from at the start of 2022 till now, and it looks like holy shit, Hex sucks. So if you were looking at this like the inverse analogy, your weight is kind of going up for a few days or a few weeks, whatever it might be. So kind of ignore the time frame here. If we're talking about like Hex as a project or your weight as a project, if I zoom out far enough, well, yeah, that's like I have to hit the log. I'm not really gonna be a great charter here, but if you're,
right for log,
is it in the bottom? There we go.
Yeah.
So if I keep zooming out, I can actually see like, hey, here is my trend line up and to the right. Oh, okay, I am actually doing okay, up and to the right. I had maybe a few days here in a row where it looks like, holy smokes, I'm kind of going down in terms of price or up in terms of weight, whichever one is the negative connotation. But again, if we zoom out, if we've kind of been hitting some of those really, really important goals, whether they be the physical activity targets or macros or whatever the heck it is, if we are maintaining some of those goals and structures that you have in place, this trend line should be overall moving in the right direction. So if you have some sort of tool like that, and that's going to be something that Ryan is going to offer up here, or like show how he works individually with his clients, that we both think a lot of the community is really, really going to latch onto, is to chart your own progress almost in this format where, we were joking the other day of like you can have like golden crosses of your your muscle mass and your fat mass and shit like that. So it'd be pretty cool where you'll be able to see as you manipulate certain variables in your life, in your lifestyle, how it directly affects the outcome of like your actual body weight chart, and then ultimately maybe some other metrics that relate to your actual health.
Yeah.
So yeah, great question. And my best advice, so Ryan for sure has the time and the experience working one-on-one. I'm a bit more cold, probably. I like to just say, hey, I like to just say, hey, look at the numbers, and like, hey, if week over week or month over month you're going in the right direction, it's okay. So I can sympathize a little bit and say like, hey, or empathize. I always get these ones mixed up. I think it's empathize. So if the number on the scale goes up and you're like, holy shit, that's not what I want to be happening. Like Ryan mentioned, there are so many factors going into that number. Did you weigh yourself at the same time? Did you actually track your sodium content yesterday? Did you track your carb content yesterday? Did you track your like every single macronutrient and lots of the micronutrients have a huge effect on a lot of this stuff and clearing like your liquid that you're holding on to. So there's so many things in just using the weight number. Weight is a great proxy for determining progress, but if you look at it day to day and hour to hour, it's really quite useless. Just like looking, like if I look at this hex chart, minute over minute, oh man, I hate myself. Damn it.
I will say this, the minute over minute and all that data is needed to be able to extrapolate and articulate the broader view, So I think it is important to take the data, but the way we articulate it is incredibly important, because without it, you weigh yourself once every 2 weeks, you could pick the one high day.
Yeah, great point.
You
Great point.
could pick the one high day, and that's not going to give you the full picture. So
yeah,
it is normal to feel that initial pain, getting used to the responsibility of looking at the data. It's responsibility. And we're just
Yeah.
honestly not used to it. And that's fair. We weren't brought up caring about this. We weren't brought up being taught how to do this stuff. So the point is it is going to be a little bit of pain, but once you really understand the trends, the patterns, you are able to make concrete, effective decisions on how to move forward, which also plays into structure. You know,
Yeah.
because how do you actually identify a plateau if you don't have any information to identify it?
Yeah.
You know, how are you
Agreed.
going to identify a good entry in Hex if you can't look at the candles? They're not there.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just have one candle from like 6 months ago and another candle like, for today. It's like, that's not enough. You know what I mean? You have no idea what's going on. So that's a great point, man. So that was just a good question. Hopefully we give him some good insight on that.
Yeah. Let's look at this next one here. From Runesky, surrounding matters heaps though. I've noticed that it's always the people I surround myself with. It dictates the shape of my body, the way I talk, etc. Yeah. So a few things just jump to mind really quickly here is like forming and procuring habits. Like lots of the information and authors are like leading, I guess, habits and or habits experts talk about making it easy, making it like visual. So like if you want to create a habit of eating healthier, make something more available to you. So this is your directly your surrounding matters. If you want to exercise more, one of the big things that you should do is to make it easier for yourself. So within your environment, set it up in a way to make it easier. So I 100% agree here. And yeah, the community or the individuals, the people you surround yourself with, this is like it might be a Time article or a Forbes article that people always reference. The 5 closest friends. You're the average of your 5 closest or your 10 closest. I'm not sure
Yep.
where that information came from, but it's some sort of article like that. And again, I do 100% agree with that. For the most part, it applies pretty much across the board for most individuals.
Yeah, dude, 100%, man. And that's just like a good generalized one. Like, because you guys got to understand, I work with a lot of people that have family environments that are not, I'll say, the most supportive, or they have work environments that are not the most supportive, right? Culture
Yeah.
in general, and I'm speaking for America, of course. I know we have international viewers. America is not the most supportive. Go figure, for overall health. So yeah, that's a huge point, man. And I will say sometimes it's not always changeable. Sometimes you do got to come up with a structure that is very clever so you can coexist with these things. Because sometimes, what if it's a significant other? You can't just be like, all right, let's just have everybody get like divorced or something, because their environment isn't super great around them and you're trying to lose weight. Obviously, you're not just going to throw away relationships, on something like that. But how do we coexist with these things too? So to his point, Runsky's like, yeah, that's super correct. Like, being around people that are aware of health, that know what they're doing, that have good understanding of this stuff and live the lifestyle and look the part 24/7. Yeah, that's like a good spot to be around in any capacity, whether it be with financial assets. Look at the Hex community. There are people that are financially smart coming to this community for a good reason. It attracts other people who know what they're doing. It attracts people to a good asset that makes sense. Same thing with hopefully what we're going to do here is bring more people to the space that want to be a part of it, the good people in the industry that want to be a part of it. So yeah, that matters a big deal though, because it is a huge negative externality. And I'm sorry I'm using Richard Hart words there, but I just like the way that word works for this. When somebody is around people who are not supportive, when the group, the culture group that they're with is not super indicative of the goals that you're trying to hit. So yeah, it could definitely be a big factor.
Yeah. You said the one thing I wanted to say is that whether it be your family or the place you live, like your country or your city or wherever it is,
Yeah.
they might be neutral on the support factor, but they might not be conducive. So you might be in a
Agreed.
situation, right, where your family's not supportive of it, but it honestly might just be them more, or your state or your country more so like kind of stuck in a way that is extremely non-conducive to the change that you would like to implement for your body,
100%,
your
bro.
health, and
That's
your
yeah,
life.
that's probably more common.
Right? So like your parents like to eat, like I went to school in New Mexico and Texas for quite a while. Your family likes to have a huge chicken fried steak dinner
Yep.
every other night with a side of with whatever the heck, right? And not because right, they're not supportive of you, but just because like that's like the way it's been, or for whatever the heck the reason is. So yeah, creating an environment and like trying to go against culture is really tough. I found it in myself. Like I oftentimes don't eat breakfast. I would say 90% of the time, maybe even more. And when I'm when I'm staying over at my parents' house or when it's vacation, like you're gonna get some heat if you're not enjoying breakfast with everybody, right?
Yeah,
You'll
that
get some
makes
flack,
sense.
and it's not because they're not supportive of your goals. It's like, hey, come sit down and enjoy a meal with us.
Yeah,
So it has taken me a little while to really figure out the right way to go about that, as opposed to, because you also want to help out, right? Most times you're
of
trying to divvy
course.
up like the cooking and the cleaning and stuff. So I don't want to just say, hey, fuck you guys, I'm not eating breakfast. I still want to sit down, like hang, have a coffee, chat, and hopefully contribute. It is a tough thing to do, especially like if there's bacon right there. Like probably sneak some bacon. Sure, sh- sure, yeah. So absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, just don't mistake it for them not necessarily being supportive, I guess, was my takeaway there.
No, yeah,
Mhm.
I'll quickly summarize that again because that's a good point. Yeah, the majority of the time that I see too is that someone's trying to make changes and they know it's not malicious behavior, but their significant other is just like eating a pizza in front of them. And
Mhm.
once again, it's like
Mhm.
you can't eat pizza and lose weight, but that person may have already spent maybe the calories that they wanted to spend for the day, and they know that that 400 slice of pizza ain't going to be the most hot choice that specific night. But it doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
not mentally difficult to go through it. Or maybe
Yeah.
someone, I mean, I had a client tonight, she's reverse dieting. She's at close to 2,000 calories a day, but she'd already eaten most of her food for the day, and her friends are doing like a go away dinner at a Italian restaurant. And there's a few places that really, no offense, because I love Italian food, I love Mexican food, but they just go sky high with the calories. It just does not matter. So
Yeah.
Italian food is one of them. You're talking 1,500 to 2,000 calories per entree.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's like you're going to a t-shirt store expecting it to be $25 and it's like $250.
Yeah.
Except instead of just like having a choice to buy it, you just have to buy it and you don't know the price tag. The point being is
Yeah.
there's stuff that's going to come up that, like he said, is not conducive. It makes it difficult too. So there's a lot of layers to this stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably the most common one I see too, for
Mhm.
sure. Oh yeah, I saw
Right.
this comment about Noom. Have you had experience with Noom?
Do you
I
guys
have some experience with Noom.
I
Noom,
have no experience, so I was just gonna look it up here and just talk. I'm gonna let you
yeah.
go. I'm gonna look it up in the background here while you chat on it.
Yeah, so before I really got busy and into the individual side of things with working with individuals for the mindset and nutrition, I had a corporate-based health and wellness company called Mindset Life, and Noom was one of our big competitors. And they basically do, call it what it is. They have coaches that have hundreds of different people. It's very automated. They have to be very careful about what they say, and it's a red light, yellow light, green light system for food choices, which from the feedback we've gotten in the group I manage, it has a very specific demographic, which is like females age 40 to 65 for the most part. They really don't like it. They feel it's very infringing on food choices, where it's like some foods are red, like bad food, and then some foods are
Mm,
green, like good food, which can
yeah.
cause some serious, um, you know, bad relationships with food that really should never be there. Because of course, like, can we lose weight in the Skittles? Yes, but it doesn't mean we're going to cut it out forever and like view it as such. So other than that, it's fairly inexpensive. I've tried it myself to test it when we were like looking at the competition. Of course, my approach is obviously very much so texting people every day, phone calls once a week, very much so involved. But this is like hundreds of thousands of people use Noom, and it's very broad. So if you're a super self-starter, can do everything by yourself, and there's no psychological or understanding the data that's needed, they'll come in and kind of assign you some stuff and kind of just send you a message once a week, and
Hmm.
it's going to be fairly automated because once again, because of how big of a company they are very limited in what they can say. Do they help people? Absolutely. I think they're honestly a net positive in the space. It's just, I think they're also a representation of how difficult, how multi-layered and complex the issue is that obesity is, and how no matter how big Noom gets, it will not fix the problem in and of itself, because Noom is not designed to fix the problem. It's more of, once again, one of those like, reactionary based tools that doesn't go quite far enough to actually fix it. I don't know what's needed. Like, I know what's needed, but I don't know what company could actually provide what's needed.
Hmm.
But yeah, Noom is an interesting thing. I would encourage you to look at reviews of people using it specifically, so they can go over just how their exact experience was. When I used it, it was about a couple years ago, so they've changed a few things. I also had a friend who was in Texas who worked for them too. So they're not bad at all. There's so much worse stuff out there in the weight loss industry. This is kind of going based on Seco. They operate on Seco. They give you what it is. It's just if you have years of bad experiences, decades of bad experiences, or a complex situation where structure, communication, all these things need to be there that really help build a mindset to do this forever outside of just, hey, here's your stuff, go eat it and lose weight. I think you'll feel let down. Otherwise, there are people that are super self-starters. Oh, I didn't know that there's this calorie thing and macro thing. Cool, I can just do it, no problem, and be totally fine. Maybe you don't have a whole lot of weight to lose. Maybe the weight loss is linear because there's not a lot going on. But for people that I typically work with, anywhere from like 150 to 450 pounds, it could be very, very hit or miss depending on what they really truly need at the time.
Interesting. I have seen ads for these guys, so
yeah, they're huge, man.
I
Their ad budget must be literally astronomical.
So it just says tracking food intake and exercise, so very similar to like a MyFitnessPal, a chronometer, there's a whole bunch of apps in that space for tracking, whether it be or for tracking both. All of them have added some sort of physical activity portion to it, in addition to just the food going in. This company is known for its emphasis on behavior change and mental wellness. Again, so I think, like Ryan said, I think it looks like they're trying to help people. They're offering another avenue or another option. I think one of the things we both agreed upon when we first met, and I think in both of the first 2 episodes already, is that there's not really going to be a one size fits all answer that comes out to fight like the big problem that's happening in the US and Canada and really everywhere. So I think the more avenues that are offered, probably the better.
100%.
Is it successful? I'm sure it's successful for some. I have no idea like what their rates are or what that is.
They're pretty cheap. I think it's like $20 a month, something like that.
Oh, sorry, I mean like their percentages on weight loss and then and like success, yada yada. So
I don't even think they'll have that, honestly. That's I feel like an impossible metric unless you have
I'm guessing it's similar to a lot of programs like it seems kind of like a Weight Watchers with like they want you to know that they care about your mental health or your wellness, I guess. So I'm sure there's lots of value here. If there's a free trial and it's something you're interested in.
If there's a free trial, you'll get all the answers you want there. I'll say that much.
Right?
I wouldn't recommend it if you're looking for like if you're actually wanting to invest something that could make a lot of sense. Like if you already have a good idea what you're doing, you just want some guidance that could be really helpful. I just know that the imagery they use, like we've seen some serious feedback on this, specifically the feedback that they have on the red light, yellow light, green light system from the psychological perspective of making good or bad food choices. They really push. I won't say really push, but it could just feel like a big push, with the imagery that's there. Because that's a big disordered eating is a big deal, and it's turning into a big deal because of decades of bad experience with this stuff. So I'm not knocking Noom by any means. I just, it's a tough problem to tackle. And unless you do have the time to talk to people every day and devote yourself, I think no matter what approach someone takes, it's either going to be too black and white and safe, or it's going to take a few risks here and there and appeal to some people and really piss off a lot of other people, to be fair to them,
I agree. The one thing I was going to mention, I can't remember. I was just scrolling around and they had a section here that talked about like some of their, I guess, their focus on like the psychology aspect of it. And you can really implement a lot of this. So like if you're thinking they've got some secret sauce, like maybe they do in the background, but I've got a class that I teach every other semester that this is an extremely common, like these are some of the 6 most studied, most investigated theories and kind of like models for how to go about promoting exercise adherence over a short period of time, a long period of time, over a lifetime. So this first one that they reference, just when I'm looking at their website, this cognitive behavioral therapy, it is a pretty popular model. Or over here, it's social cognitive. But there are many, many theories and models like this. So I would be careful if you maybe like the looks of them because they have some sort of new look at psychology. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're probably going to try harder than a lot of companies or a lot of strategies to try and incorporate some sort of psychological theme behind getting you attached or getting you to adhere to whatever the goal is. But there is a lot of data on this already. I think they just might be one of the first ones or one of the big ones really trying to make it more user friendly. Because right now, if you want to go read on social cognitive theory, like it's not really fun. Like I've got like for this lecture, it's like a 60 slide lecture where we go through like the actual theories. So
Dang, that's
so
interesting feedback on that.
yeah, so I do think they look okay. Like I'm not going to say whether they're like the best or the worst. I know very little about them. Yeah, I would recommend try the free trial if it's something that interests you. It looks like they're trying a slightly different approach than Weight Watchers or some of the other ones. But like Ryan said, so Ryan's got some more experience there. I think both of us are going to be against red lighting foods. I'm not a fan of red lighting.
Yeah, Weight Watchers is a
foods,
similar
really.
thing. It's essentially like saying, hey, we trust you enough to teach you some of this stuff, but we think you're too dumb to understand the rest of it. Like with Weight Watchers, they give you a point-based system. And it's like, hey, we think you're smart enough to handle like points, but we don't think you're smart enough to handle calories. So when you can't deal with the points anymore and you go back to real life, you won't be able to handle it. So we're not going to teach you that. On top of that, the points typically don't make any sense anyways from the actual corresponding calorie counts. So have fun.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to like specifically not Weight Watchers, but at the end of the day, like these tools are like a repetition of the casino. They're not actually giving you solutions. They're just giving you the small winnings. And then they go back to the casino, to the house, right? It's a cyclical based product cycle. They want you to lose a little bit of weight and have some form of success. And then the weight comes back because they know it's going to come back. They know it's actually happening. So yeah, that's the only thing I typically have against it. I'm totally fine on and knowing that they have more of like a robotic approach. Like they have real people responding, but they're robot responses because they're under a very tight agreement, right? As a large company that they can only say specific things while not being dietitians, right? So you have a coach that has like 300 people that's giving you robot answers once a week. So you can only be so effective when someone has deep psychological rooted issues handling the problem. Can they still help a lot of people? Absolutely. But just know what it is that's actually going on. And if you are a self-starter, you could just look into calorie counting and macro tracking. The stuff that you can't really figure out well on your own, from my experience, is the data analytics and understanding the things that we talk about. We're going to be talking about in this channel, like structure, building metabolisms, the references to the analogies we're going to be talking about, and how to do that successfully over the long term and rinse and repeating the process. That's not as talked about in the industry because they don't want you to learn it, because if you learn it, the industry doesn't exist. Therein lies the issue. So yeah, good question though. Figure we get one about a big player like that.
New Mexican Albuquerque in the house.
Nice.
I went to the school I went to in New Mexico was New Mexico Junior College down in the southeast corner, called in a city called, I don't know if I'd call the city, actually it's pretty small, Hobbs, New Mexico. It was oil town close to Odessa. That's where there's a movie about it.
The Friday Night Lights town?
Yeah. That's right.
That's sick.
So Odessa was one of our rivals. I played golf for the college. We played against Odessa. Yeah, pretty often.
Nice.
Yeah. Philly Steaks. This was the guy with the Noom comment. It was the motivation. Oh, okay. So this was in reference to the
Zig Ziglar.
The five people that surround you. Zig Ziglar that said you have to look at the 5 people around you, and that is your destiny. You need good, better people around you for success. Okay, Zig Ziglar. I don't think I know that name.
Zig Ziglar. I've never heard of that name.
Zig Ziglar, American author.
Yeah.
Okay, motivational speaker.
There it is. You just spelled his name wrong, but that's fine. That's a weird name. I spelled it wrong too when I Google searched it. Dude, that's a good comment from Runeski's there. Dude, it's so tough, man. It's so tough because like obviously you love these people that are so close to you, and that's why this is such a dynamic thing, because everybody's their own unique puzzle. Everybody's relationship with these people is different. How long you've been battling food or weight loss or any of these things is so unique and different. That's why like I really feel until we come up with a truly unique approach where people are able to be cared about, communicated with on a much deeper level than what dietitians or doctors are able to be offered, the only other way to really combat this is like a really strong overreach by like the government or something, where there's like a straight up restriction on spending on calories. So that means super crazy overreach on like restaurants and the food industry, the FDA, like all that stuff, which I don't think is going to happen. But, you know, think about what happens when you overspend in your bank account. It stops you, right? Like, of course, with a credit card, a little different, but in a savings account, once you get to zero, you're done. What if the same thing happened for food? That's the only thing I could think of that would like directly just stop it. But that, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think modern medicine will come up with anything either personally, but yeah, it's difficult, man. Hang in there.
Yeah, with family. Yeah, it is a tough problem to solve. DB Cooper, how's it going? Your workout is my warm-up. Come on. You don't know my workout. Just crushed a workout. Respect the pump. Respect the pump, my friend. Weight Watchers is macros for dummies. Yeah, I'll try to be a bit nicer, and I'll just say Weight Watchers is a simpler form of macros.
I feel like it's more complex, honestly.
Yeah, it is a bit weird. I've never actually used it, and I haven't really, but you've probably
like
seen more
certain
of it than
things
I have.
have 0 points, and you're like, wait, what? Protein certainly has calorie counts and energy attached to it. These people can absolutely gain weight from eating too many healthy foods, you know? Like it's honestly more complex, and it's just insulting in that way when you really get like break down what they're trying to teach people. The best way to word is like you're literally being told by Weight Watchers you're too dumb to understand it the way you would actually understand it. It's like instead of assigning dollars in America, here's this made up currency that doesn't matter. We're going to use a point system to handle your finances, but it doesn't even correlate to the US dollar.
Okay. So
but
they're
you
just
need
like
to learn it.
Hugely incentivizing quote unquote healthy or high protein foods or high fiber foods or
Exactly. Yeah.
or whatever with 0 points.
That,
so it's like, holy shit, I can eat whatever I want. If it's these foods, there's fucking 0 points, boys. Let's go.
and I don't really typically see, because I have a lot of people that come to me from, you know, having tried stuff like that. I don't typically see that being like the real detrimental factor. It's really like, oh, I lost the weight. Now I want to go out to a bar with my friends. Oh, do I still track points? Well, this plate of wings doesn't really have points.
Yeah.
How many? Wait, how do I try? Fuck this, man. I'm done. I just whatever. You know, I'll just hopefully it goes well. And then of course the regression happens, and there's nothing really gained nor lost. Like yes, they may have lost weight in that short period of time, but in the grand scheme of your life, zoom out on the chart.
Yeah.
If you regain the weight and then some, which is typically where the stats show, does it really matter? And if anything, it puts someone, in my opinion, in a worse spot because mentally, now that they have lost weight, gained weight back, they feel worse about it and feel even worse about trying again. So if anything, it's creating more damage because you have years or decades of bad experiences. And yes, a bad experience could easily be losing weight and then, oh my God, how did I gain the weight back? I feel terrible. So yeah, Weight Watchers, man, not a good tool. I had to say it.
Yeah. Again, may be useful for some, but I think one that we probably like.
And you can lose weight with it.
Yeah.
You could lose weight with it 100%, man.
And if you like it, right? It's definitely like built around some decent ideas. So yeah, this is definitely one of the places that Ryan are big on is like we don't want to red light a food. We don't want if it's something that you want to work in, I think, and I'm pretty sure Ryan thinks that you can work it in a way that makes sense for your goals, almost no matter what. Unless you tell me you want to eat like the world's like it would have to be something crazy. Like the context would have to be like pretty silly, I think, for me to be like, okay, now that we can't do. But if it's something like, hey, I'd like to incorporate pizza into my diet, if it's I want to incorporate beer, whiskey, donuts, like whatever the fuck, I'm pretty sure we would both have a strategy with how to approach that.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, negative relationships with food, that kind of gets into the start point of things. You know, it's like if you tell someone to go eat perfectly because these foods are bad, and then because of that, they don't stay consistent because they say, hey, dude, F this, I'm out. I'm going to have my beer, or I'm going to have this, or I'm going to have that. Well, guess what? You just lost that person forever. And you may have been their only chance. It may have been their last chance that they were trying to improve their health with. So if you target it in that way, like a lot of dietitians and doctors do, and rightfully so, I get why. It's just that's why we need more. I'm not saying that they're wrong.
Yeah.
That is the correct answer. It is the obvious answer, but we need more to help combat what's going on and have a better conversation about it. So we stop losing people. Because once you lose someone, man, it could be another 10 years before you get them back again. Okay, I want to take care of myself again, my health again. It's got to be a that person thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Kickers, were you around when I was talking about my potential thesis or my one thesis idea? I'm not sure if you're throwing heat at me or not. Show calves. Show your calves. Victor, what's this guy's name? Ryan, you from Rochester?
Yeah, I don't know who Victor is, but yeah, I'm from Rochester, New York, man. Born in Webster. Well, not born in Webster. I was actually born in LA, but I lived in Webster for a long time. If you know me,
shit.
I'm in Dallas now though. I posted the stream on my Facebook, so I didn't know if people from my Facebook came in.
Cool. Runeskis, we were talking about, I can't remember the exact comment we were just talking about. That takes away consent. I want my fam to realize it themselves, change it, because they like themselves enough to do so. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I don't think I know what the part you're talking about when it comes to consent there, but definitely like having like somebody realize it and them on their side of things, right? As opposed to like take it from on high or even take it from you is definitely I would say a better way to go about it in general. So I might have missed that part about the consent there. DB Cooper giving us looks like a smoothie blend here. Spinach, whey, Greek yogurt, banana, bloobs, flaxseed oil, peanut butter, ice cubes, cold water, and a pinch of creatine. Sounds great. Sounds tasty. Okay, here he might be clarifying. Runskis, if government imposed on you, family imposed on you, you'd be dependent on them imposing on you. Independently healthier habits or any habits independent of others are unbreakable. Yeah, so there I can agree with you for sure. If it's the concept that we talk a lot about in those theories I just pulled up a minute ago, like when Noom was talking about CBT or I can't remember what they called it, and cognitive behavioral therapy, I think they referred to it as something else, behavioral therapy, is internal motivation as opposed to external. So if the motivation to change or the motivation to develop a habit comes from internal or from within, it is much more likely to subside for a long period of time as opposed to externally, whether it's imposed or mandated or whatever it might be. Oh, he's got great calves. Shit.
Honestly, my calves are just okay. Trust me, they're nothing special.
I've always been like pretty self-conscious about mine.
Really?
I get told. Well, I think
people are so obsessed with calves.
I don't know, man. It's just like I think a pretty normal thing to be obsessed with because they are like harder to grow in general. So like you'll watch like yourself progress in a lot of lifts and like in a lot of measurements or in a lot of different areas while your calves like kind of stay the same or stay similar. I've been reassured that they're fine. That they're not like the really like brutal calves that you might see at the gym. And
well,
I do refuse to wear like long. I usually don't wear pants when I go to the gym, so I guess they must not be like the worst. If they were the worst, I'm sure I would be wearing pants. so I don't know.
Dude, about Brunski's comment though about the government impose on you and family impose on you.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I brought up the whole government overreach thing is because you got to understand what's going on right now with obesity and the rate at which it's dramatically going up, and how we still don't have a solution for yet, and what honestly may have to happen, or else you have over at this point, I think the US is close to 50 to 60% of the adult population being obese, and like we're just going up, right? It's not slowing down, it's actually increasing. So the point is once close to 80%, 90% of the population becomes obese, and there's a heavy reliance on modern medicine, and you have the impacts it has in the economy and just infrastructurally speaking, all the things that come with it, right? Not to mention the health issues. That is where I think you're going to see some desperation and also issues with healthcare in general come about. So when I say things like that, it's not because I think it's the most effective way to do things, but I think it is because a result of a lot of lack of care, in the industry. And there's a lot of reasons why I think it's gotten to the point it's gotten to now. But the point is yeah, I think we're definitely headed towards a difficult path forward in this regard, because yeah, doctors and dietitians are not enough to help stay the growing of the problem. So yeah, that was an interesting comment because it made me realize like, yeah, that's not what I would advocate by any means, but it's an interesting situation. And I think from what we've seen over the past 2 years now, I wouldn't rule it out. Honestly, I really wouldn't rule it out, to be fair. I mean, once again, just look at the hex chart, look at the monthly, look at the weekly, not the daily, look at the monthly, the weekly. You see where it's going, you see what's going to happen. You see the onboarding rate, you see the network effect happening, you see the APY, you see the way it works, the way it operates, the transparency, the growing community. You know what's going to go down. You see what's going on with obesity. You see the growth. You see the health issues. You see the healthcare network struggling to stay alive right now. You see all these things happening. What happens when you tax it even more, an extra 30, 40%? That's all I'm saying, you know? So that would be my guess, is something like if there was something dramatic that had to come in outside of like maybe a pill that really did magically make you just like lean and lose what weight easy and shred it and stuff, which modern medicine still hasn't come up with it. And if they do, I'll let you guys know. But that's going to be a long shot, man, before that passes through all the testing needed and there's the years of peer-reviewed analysis. Like that ain't going to happen. You know, there ain't going to be a pill that comes and lets you hit all your calories and your macros and you have no desire for food. The cultural effect isn't there. You know, all these things are not just going to go away. So it's an unfortunate thing, but I think government overreach is probably what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years. Because just in general, the economy can't last with the way we're going. Not to get like sad on it all, but it just is an interesting comment. But I didn't want you to think, Runskis, that I was, you know, thinking that was a good thing. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I listened to it. Who did I see discussing this recently? That plays off of this idea. It's like, if they are mandating things that they're mandating currently, I'm going to try not to get our channel banned midstream. So if they're making you do things like they're currently making you do things in certain places, why not for other conditions? Why not for specific food? Yeah, there is a lot of theorizing that potentially if you are receiving any sort of like subsidized income, especially if it's going to be like a CBDC, a digital currency, that they could manipulate exactly how and where you spend that.
Yeah.
Right? They could mandate or try to mandate exactly like how many, like how much you act. Yeah. So it does create
They
like
can
pretty,
manipulate calorie counts by expenditures on
yeah.
food.
Yep. And like your
Scary
food
thought, man.
stamps, it's already kind of a thing, right? Where food stamps are only good for like certain items in the grocery store. They're
Yeah.
not good for everything. And like I do like kind of see I guess the reason for that, or because like
It's a
certain
big gray
stores,
area for sure, isn't it?
it's so gray and like tough to, like if you're going to give money to like a marginalized population so they can afford their groceries, well shit, the grocery store is selling Fireball and cigarettes.
Yeah.
Should those food stamps be good for those too, or should it be for essentials? So it's not too many steps from there where,
And
yeah,
what are essentials, right? Who's going to be the
yeah,
person to try to make
where
that decision and not get flack from it in our current society
yeah,
today? You
yeah.
know, not to mention
So
the cost perspective, right? I mean, Kickers put a comment in there, a good question about, you know, cost perspective and stuff.
oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
let's,
the whole thing gets dicey. And I think what we could say in this to be safe about it is, if we can't have an honest conversation with the honest truths about what's going on with obesity and all this stuff, then we're not going to come up with a solution that makes sense. We're not. If we're going to keep sidestepping about what's actually happening, we're also going to sidestep conversations like, you know, the food stamp stuff, or his question about the food being processed versus not, or if it's, you know, more or less affordable, and what is food that's deemable for people if we were to go down that road. Like if we're going to try to create some measures to help combat overall health issues, we need to be super transparent and honest, which I think the Hex community can get down with for obvious reasons, because that's what Hex is. And if you can't do that and emotions get in the way, I understand. It's an emotional topic. It's a difficult topic, but our loved ones are suffering. I think everybody suffers from this in some capacity. And I mean, I just had a passing in my family a few weeks ago for someone who's very overweight, obese, high blood pressure, diabetes, and had COVID and ended up passing because of it. And it's just difficult stuff, you know? So I think the honest conversations are what's really difficult for our, at least the United States, to have right now. So unfortunately, there's more and more layers of the problem getting added on. But that's a good question. How do you
Yeah.
guys feel about processed and unhealthy foods being much more affordable at restaurants and grocery stores? I don't know. Inflation's getting high over here in the States. It's pretty expensive. I went to Wendy's, I think, on my last bulk, and it was like $20 to order a meal, dude. It was like $20. I'm like, dude, remember when there used to be the dollar menu, like the actual dollar menu? And you
Yeah.
could get like,
Give me a junior chicken
yeah,
for
junior
a
chicken,
dollar
like a
19.
freaking what's one from Wendy's I like a lot? The junior bacon cheeseburger. Get like 3 of
Yeah.
those and a small frosty. Boom. I'd be driving home from snowboarding and I'd rip those bad boys. And you could track it, easy peasy. To really get into his question though, there's always options I think that are really fair for people to get that are unhealthy and processed. But I think it goes into categorizing. I think a lot of this is education and mentorship. You got to categorize overall health from a food perspective and an energy balance. People can go out to eat and lose weight perfectly fine. Is it slightly more difficult at times? Yeah, but a lot of restaurants more than ever and chains like Chipotle, et cetera, are putting their nutrition calculators out there in a more easy to use format than they've ever been. So I think the information, the tools are out there, but balancing overall health with energy balance is important. But do I think if I had to pick one of the two, would I rather pick Americans eating healthy and still being overweight, or being in a a healthy BMI range and maybe having 50% processed foods? I would pick the latter. I don't know how you feel about that exercise, but I would pick the latter 100%. I think from an overall health perspective, we would be in a million times better spot versus having 80% of the country heavily obese still, but only having access to, still higher calorie stuff, but it's no more of the processed stuff.
So the former there was being overweight but eating healthier food. Is that what the former was? Yeah.
Or having like
Yeah.
a somewhat of a balance between, processed Pop Tarts, higher sodium stuff, but also in a very high or a much more healthy BMI range.
Okay, then yeah, I agree. The latter, I don't really care what you eat. It's like at the base level, I really don't care, and you're more likely to to be quote unquote healthy if you're in that range. So like once we get into that range, like let's start worrying about those things. So yeah, if you did have to juxtapose like, hey, either you're in a quote unquote healthy BMI, so 25 or 18 to 25, I think is what they say is regular or normal, versus being outside of that range. Yeah, like being in a good BMI is great, and I think in the future we'll definitely talk about like the BMI metric and like how it can be misused and stuff. But if we're looking at population level data where it's like 1 million people or even more than like 1,000, especially if it's like a general population, it is a great metric and such a simple metric to grab. It's really pretty darn good. And I think I'm the first one to be like, yo, hey, we shouldn't be using that metric for this. And I will tell you, or I'll do my best to tell you, like, hey, BMI is not doing us justice here. If we're looking at the USA as a country, I think BMI is still like an awesome and like pretty easy metric to get. I guess easy is one of the big reasons why it's great to use, and because it's or so highly correlated to important other health outcomes.
Bro, I'll say this. I'm curious in your feedback on this. I feel like BMI is the Weight Watchers of body composition. And I wish in America, right, for this, I wish in America, they would just trust people with the honest conversation of body fat percentage. And we talked about this, how this is especially true with guys, because guys, it is what it is. They're typically ego driven, and guys are just unwilling to be at a weight range so that way they can look and feel a certain way. But they'll look at athletes on Instagram or actors, but I want to look like that guy. I'm like, well, he's 6 foot and he weighs 165 pounds. And he's a professional athlete and he looks that way, and nobody's weighing him on a beach. But because that guy can't even fathom weighing below 200 pounds because of some weird cultural precedent that's been set, and the lack of education in body composition, and BMI, I feel like isn't a great tool in educating people. I think it's a good catch-all tool in general, especially for doctors to use. But why don't, and this is more of a question to you, because you have more experience here in this regard, why don't they just be more honest with people and say, hey, listen, your height, you do need to weigh around here to look and feel the way you want to as it pertains to body fat? Because I feel like that's more accurate, no?
I 100% agree. When I can't remember, I think there's like a full-blown story for this, like back in the research when the BMI like index came to be
Yeah.
and came out. But body composition is a bar none 100x better measurement, better metric to use than BMI. BMI is okay and great if you're trying to look at a population at large. But yeah, great fucking question. I don't know. It's not that. I think it's because they thought so. This is man. I'm not a huge fan of the government, and I oftentimes will. If you ever hear me say goober or the goobers, I term them the goobers. I think it's because they thought it was a good idea, so they were like, "Hey, this is going to be easier to understand. We're going to say you should be in this range that's 18 to 25." It's breaking down the different like when it comes to body composition, you need to know two different numbers. When it
Yeah.
comes to BMI, you only need one number. Hey, look how good we are. And we're going to try and tell people that it's good to be 18 to 20. I think it's just, misplaced effort. And it's like it's like good intentions, just like gone bad. Like good intent. Who's the guy here that I want to try and reference about good intentions? It's like good intentions will pave the road to hell. I can't remember the actual quote. I think
Yeah, I know
it's
what you're talking about though.
what the
Yeah,
hell is that
BMI
guy's
makes no
name?
sense to me, dude. It's like
It's it's an okay. It's a ratio. That's all it is a ratio of your height to your weight.
yeah,
That's
it's
all it is.
like the Weight Watchers. It's okay, like it's not like, but it's just
Yeah,
like adding a pointless extra level slash element because it does add a layer of complexity to it that just doesn't need to be there.
yeah,
I think it would be even better is be like, hey, if you have like a male that's 5'11", you show them males at 5'11" at differing weight ranges. That at least opens their eyes to the honest reality of what could be based on certain weight ranges, right? So if you
yeah.
have, for example, you look at myself, I'm going to be transparent. And I always am, especially with my clients, because they need to understand how this stuff works. I'm 5'11". I weigh 148 pounds right now. That's how much I weigh. Most people, when I tell them I weigh 148 pounds, think I'm sick.
Yeah.
They think I'm sick.
Hmm.
And then I show them some pictures and they're like, oh, you must be an athlete. And I'm like, dude, which is it? Am I sick or am I an athlete? You know what I mean? And all jokes aside, the point is like, yeah, I think they could do a lot better job in that regard because they're not doing people justice with BMI in that regard. It's not like something I'm like, I think is like the end of the world to your point. Like, it's not like, I don't think it's going to be causing as much damage as like Weight Watchers per se, but
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of negative thought processes from communicating with people every day for the past 7 years from BMI and from them thinking that they need to be a higher weight range than they really should be to be actually healthy. Or in Kicker's case, and he's actually, by the way, shout out to Brian Kick. He's a trainer that I used to train with back in my hometown, Rochester. He's awesome. But he made a point. He's like, I'm in an unhealthy weight range, and he's a professional bodybuilder. You know what I mean? So obviously BMI is, like you said, it's that range that's catching. So there's going to be some outliers. He's obviously one of them. And I'm
Hmm.
kind of an outlier too. People are like, well, that's a weird weight to be at, even though you look the way you look. I'm like, well, is it? Or is it taught to feel like a weird weight for whatever weird reason that we have? So I feel like if we could have a more honest discussion, like you always hear me reference, let's have an honest discussion about this. We need to have some of the more painful conversations. And sometimes, dude, exercise, I'll have a conversation with somebody and it is painful for a guy to hear, yeah, you weigh 260 pounds. We need to get you around 175 to look the way you want to look and feel. That's tough to hear,
Hmm.
because that seems like a lot longer of a road, but that's the situation we're in right now. And from a psychological standpoint, I don't lead with those conversations, right? It's a very delicate thing. Let me be clear. We're just talking about it cordially right now. But it is important to trust people with this stuff. People can't handle it. They need guidance. We need help. But the point is we're not dummies, man. Point systems and the BMI, it's like, to me, it's just like the same thing. Doesn't really work when you get into the real world, does it?
Hmm.
Man, I can't believe we got off on BMI on that one.
Yeah.
Funny.
No, that's fun. I like the BMI topic because I think it's great for some contexts and absolutely dog shit for other contexts.
Right?
Like seriously, like it goes from being like actually useful to being like fully flipped on its head and actually being like fully unuseful. So yeah, I do think like from here on out, I think a push for understanding body composition and body fat percentage. Like, hey,
It's
like
huge.
we don't have to talk about the other compartment. We can just still give one number, but like measuring that. I think this is another probably piece of it. I'm guessing is that body mass index. It's so easy to calculate. You just need height and weight.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like it is becoming easier and easier and easier to get an estimate of body fat percentage. So that's again a whole nother topic for another day. But if you're using like a similar measurement day over day or week over week, then it's pretty darn good. But just understand like if you are trying to measure your body fat using some sort of tech, it's it's not perfect. It has
Yeah.
its own flaws. Whereas like BMI, this number or this ratio that was created, just like how much weight you're able to stack in X amount of height. So right,
Dude.
like I'm also 5'11", so the amount of kilos, right? It's mass or it's centimeters per kilogram squared. So the amount of height or the amount of weight that you can put into somebody's height, it's more likely you will be unhealthy if you put more weight onto somebody's frame. That's like the general rule
Yeah.
there,
Which
right?
is fair.
And that
Because most
general
most of the
rule,
time it's not muscle for most
yeah,
people.
that general rule is fair. Just when you look at like if like athletes as a population, especially athletes in like Western American sports, so like football, like hockey, those guys, their BMI shows that they're approaching obese. But certainly every single other health metric we take of theirs shows us that they are quite healthy. So
Yeah.
yeah, BMI is yeah. So here BMI is okay for an average person. I fall into an unhealthy range despite being under 10% body fat. Yeah, so exactly. So here is a case where we would totally disregard BMI as an indicator for health. If you
Yeah.
are under 10% body fat, um, well, it might be approaching too low. It kind of depends on the individual here and what's happening with some of your other stuff. But if your other stuff's good, like 10% body fat is fine.
Yeah.
10%, and that is definitely a better way to go. I think currently, like if you look at ACSM, that's American College of Sports Medicine. I think for males, they would recommend 8 to 15 or 8 to 18, something like that, percent body fat. So there's one number that we could say to shoot for, right? I think that's what they thought back in the day when the metric came around. They're like, hey, we've got one simple, clean recommendation, and
Wow.
he came back to me. Kickers again helped me out with this quote: "The road to hell is paved with good intentions."
There it is.
That's exactly what I was looking for. So I
This comment after.
I am yeah
Oh
not
my god.
I wouldn't call myself anti-government. I just think they really fucking suck at their job. Like
Dude, they don't trust
um
people with handling stuff on their own. And to
and
be fair, people are not handling their health on their own very well, but what's not helping is giving them the fact that they should trust a doctor who is then giving them information that honestly is just not giving them the honesty. Like,
mhm,
yeah, Weight Watchers, I'm not surprised. They're a private company. But
yeah.
doctors, that's another thing entirely. When you have doctors giving out this information as the norm, that's skewing people's mindsets on this stuff. You know, they're
Mhm,
not able to articulate what is actually healthy or in a normal range. And that impacts culture and the way we view these things. So you
yeah.
have learned behavior over decades that is passed on to people, et cetera. This has become so deeply woven in culture, especially here in America, that that's why I came up with the government overreach analogy, because that's not out of the question, man. It's too far gone. I would have to
Mhm,
clone myself 10 million times to be able to work with enough people to potentially offset this.
yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Because if you don't think that Americans do not need someone to talk to them every single day and get on the phone with them at least once a week with data analytics, the psychological benefits, and understanding structural weight loss and how to operate within our culture successfully, because of how difficult it is, take some time and look into what's actually happening, because it is
Mm,
crazy difficult to lose weight in this country right now.
yeah.
And it's not like an excuse for people to just keep gaining weight, because it is a self-responsibility, but this is a highly complex and layered issue that goes very, very deep now. And that's why we're having this show to talk about this stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah, tons of really great comics coming in. Everybody's pouring in
Absolutely.
late after the whale stream.
Yeah. Where was the next one I was going to? I skipped down a little bit there. I think it was Philly Steaks here.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Philly, you said you're
He was in
north of
Canada right
Toronto.
now.
Cool.
and he's an instructor, I think, a ski instructor or maybe a
Yeah.
snowboard instructor.
I snowboarded at Bristol Mountain a lot. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's near the Rochester area. But yeah, the ice slopes. Because
Oh
we
yeah.
always make our snow in the Northeast because we don't ever get any damn snow. So
Mm,
yeah, they have to do man-made snow a lot, and it gets really icy and
I
not
see. I
super
see.
super great.
Hmm.
But yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, Kickers. I'm not sure what year it came out, but I've
Yeah, that's a good
for some
question.
reason I think
Google
I
that.
remember like a pretty funny like history lesson or like story that went along with the creation of like the BMI metric.
Dude,
So
it was
it's
invented in the 1830s by a Belgian statistician.
yeah, there you go. So 1830s,
Let me
super
guess.
old, and it's just like using really any metric. It's just like use it where it applies and don't. So yeah, I'm like I think maybe the
Interesting.
story I'm thinking of like is when either I don't know which friggin' uh which branch it would have been if it was the FDA or if it was the USD. What's the other one? USADA or what's the agriculture one? There's so many different branches that have weird reaches in weird areas. And like I know less about Canada, so I'm not talking shit. I'm more so talking shit just about like government in general. Here is like I think they probably had a good intention with it. They're like, hey, this is what we see leads to the best health outcomes. We're gonna
Yeah.
try to use this. But yeah,
But the
so
fact that they
this
haven't updated that or changed it from the
mhm,
1830s, it just goes to show we're in an industry with doctors that are very reactive based. And someone made a
yes.
comment, they're preserving feelings, aka we can't have honest conversations. We talk about that a lot. But yeah, when you have something that's not updated after over 170 years, it's like, dude,
Yeah.
times have changed, bro. We have a
Yeah.
Starbucks down the street serving a caramel macchiato for 600 calories that nobody is tracking, nobody's taking care of, with
Yeah.
layered issues on top of it. That's the reality. Keep the
Yeah.
doctors, keep the dietitians, but how else do we help? Because
Mhm,
literally the state of the economy depends on whether or not the healthcare system stays afloat
mhm.
at this point, straight up. And if COVID wasn't the thing that came in to wake everybody up to that, which it didn't, unfortunately, man, I don't know what will do. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy times.
Mhm. Next on down the list, I'm 4 kilos overweight according to my BMI. My body fat is 18. Yeah. So if you know your BMI and your body fat percentage, I will always reference you to your body fat percentage.
100%.
It is a way better teller of the other metrics. BMI is okay. Body fat percentage is good.
Yeah.
It's still not the best, but it's better than BMI by a long shot.
Yeah. What I really recommend too is if you guys, especially for the guys, if you look at like if you type in body fat chart / body fat range, you can see like a bunch of pictures of guys that are kind of in body fat ranges. Because remember, body fat comes on typically from genetically speaking different areas, right? So someone could lose weight and be like when I lose weight, I'm typically around 8% body fat on my arms first and my back, but not my front yet. So body fat comes off, right, kind of in an order of operation setup. So when someone says like, oh, I'm 10% body fat, that doesn't mean every aspect of their body is 10% body fat, so that's a really kind of vague statement unless you're really like pull testing yourself everywhere. But even then it's like it's really difficult. So you could be 10% body fat here or 18% body fat percentage here, but the point is you just kind of got to lose weight to eventually look a certain way. That's really what it comes down to. Body fat percentage typically is better used within a range is what I found. So like, okay, I'm like around 18 to 22 or 14 to 18. To me, that makes a lot more sense and gives you a better idea as to why, certain areas may look leaner than others because body fat does not come off linearly. There's no body fat spot treatment, of course. That's just more of a general statement for the guys out there. I mean, girls can use it too. There's a body fat chart you could pretty much find and gives you a good range of how females look based on height at certain ranges.
Yeah. 100%.
That's funny.
Everybody
Dude.
want to look like Connor, but don't
Right?
nobody want to fight at 145.
That's
This
the
is
thing, man. That's the ego thing with guys, dude. It's like Connor's a millionaire. He looks amazing. A girl ain't freaking weighing him on a scale on the beach. No one gives a
yeah.
shit. No one gives
Biffiness,
a shit.
I hope you're doing this on purpose. This is a direct like take on the Ronnie Coleman quote. Everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but
Yeah. No one want to
don't
lift
nobody want to
anything.
lift these heavy ass weights.
Yeah. Dude, that's
Yeah.
that's crazy, man. Think about like if you really think about the loudest people when it comes to like having to weigh a certain way or a certain number, it's always guys complaining about what other guys weigh. girls don't give a shit. I mean, there may be some, but it's like, as long as you look and feel a certain way, trust me, man, they ain't gonna care. And most people, like when you are leaner, most people, unless you're Conor McGregor and you weigh in on live television so they know what you weigh, most people who are very lean and body fat look more vascular and have better shape and appear to weigh more. So you look at professional bodybuilders who are natural, none of them weigh over 200 pounds typically. They're all typically around 150 to 180, depending on their weight class and their height. So the beautiful thing is like we talked about earlier about understanding body composition and having an honest conversation about it, whether from a doctor or otherwise. Guys could get an understanding where they actually need to weigh to operate effectively, to feel good, and to look a certain way and feel a certain way about themselves, you know? So that's just like a really good way to bring that about, because yeah, Conor McGregor, everybody does know what he weighs, but I'll tell you what, if nobody knew what he weighed, most people would think he weighed probably 160 when he was at his fighting weight, 145. I'm sure everybody would guess about 10 to 15 pounds heavier and be way off.
Yeah, man. I stubbed my crypto, coming to us from Twitch. Super nice. How do you guys approach people who are underweight with high metabolisms? Thanks for all the great content. Very similar approach. We're implementing that exact same fundamental underlying assumption or working assumption that we talked about extensively last episode, or was it 2 episodes ago now? Last episode, the fundamentals of energy balance. We're still going to talk about how important, or how we, I guess, assume that rule to be true. That's kind of like one of the laws that we adhere to, is that energy in versus energy out will really dictate what the outcome is going to be. And from there, create some sort of structure that works for that individual. So if it was like a one-on-one consult, which is probably the best way to go about having something effective for you, especially if you've struggled getting into, or like sticking to some sort of regimen, it would be trying to understand the action, like the different unique characteristics of your personal lifestyle that might be holding you back, or might be making things a little more difficult for you. So extremely similar to weight loss. And it's really just a scale that you can tip one way, or you can tilt the other way. The big issue is that with the extreme majority of people, it's going the other way. It's going in the weight loss direction. But if you're underweight with high metabolism, very, very similar, and very similar approach and principles being employed here.
Do you mind sharing my screen for that question quick?
Yeah, will do.
Hopefully they're still here, but I'm just showing you, this is just the chart I use for myself. The beautiful answer to your question, man, weight gain is incredibly linear and easy. The difficulty comes from understanding that it is a time commitment and it is a skill set, becoming clever and effective at eating a higher calorie count, right? So everybody tracks calories when they're losing weight. So they are good at tracking low calories. When it comes to high calories, there's no control, no responsibility. And that's a big issue, because for people like yourself or people like me, when I first started, I couldn't gain weight until I was shown, hey, if you're in a calorie surplus and then you have the numbers to support it, and you gained half a pound on your average and you have the numbers to support it, great, then you're gaining weight. There's the proof, right? What kind of weight it is, I don't know. I don't know if you're resistance training. I don't know if your protein intake's high, et cetera. But this is the stuff I do for my clients. And I have plenty who have issues gaining weight, and we easily can make you gain weight quite quickly, quite effectively. But the point is, you want to make sure you're at a good enough pace. You don't want to gain weight too quickly and put on pointless body fat. There's no point in gaining weight at too quick of a rate, because then, pacing is a big deal. You don't want to put on body fat. You're just going to have to take it off later. But the point is to be honest and transparent with you, man, if you don't have data, you're just never going to probably be in a surplus in a way that makes sense, because then you're just going to be doing what a lot of people do and just eat whatever to gain weight. And that typically doesn't end well. You look at the body composition of people who dirty bulk or just eat whatever they want and try to gain a bunch of weight. They may put on a little bit of muscle if they are working out, but a lot of it's going to be body fat, which leads to a very long and depressing weight loss phase, which then they typically lose the body or the muscle they'd put on anyways during that weight loss phase. Because if their gain phase was any indication of how effective their weight loss phase was, and it ends up they just look the same way all the time, which is no bueno. So I would recommend getting in the charting. I would recommend looking at the data so you can see what your actual weight's doing. It gives you clarity, man. It gives you the understanding of where the weight's actually going from a macro analysis. And then you can say, hey, I'm up half a pound this week. I'm up half a pound. And guess what? Metabolic adaptation is a real thing. Your metabolism will catch up to this input. It will adapt and change. So you will no longer gain weight after X amount of time or weeks at a certain intake, at a certain activity level. So go figure. When that happens, you need to be able to identify it, make the changes to move forward. I hit plateaus and I gain weight probably every 2 to 3 weeks. And it's why I go from about 2,400 calories a day at a start, for example, all the way up to 3,400 calories a day. I don't go from 2,400 to 3,400. I gradually get there as the weight gain happens, as my strength comes up, and I'm doing so at a correct pacing. So a bulk cycle, if you're looking to put on muscle and make improvements, needs to be done in a way where you're patient, you understand pacing, and you have the data to do it. Because without it, you're just kind of flying blind. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but I will say you can learn how to make 3,000 calories fit in a very small meal and get on with the rest of your day if you're very busy. Or you can make 1,500 calories spread throughout the entire day and make it a ton of food. It is a skill set on how to operate on lower calories and how to operate on higher calories. Just like with finances, you don't have to stop tracking your finances when you make more money. In fact, there's even more tracking. There's even more responsibility when you make more money. Just like the Hexicans, right? You come into this infinite wealth syndrome coming in here. Yeah, you got a lot more problems that come with it. You got to manage it. Same thing with a higher calorie count. So I would get comfortable with tracking, get comfortable with higher calorie counts, get comfortable with that stuff. And yeah, you'll be able to manipulate things quite easily. It's really fun stuff. Weight gain is the most simple thing in the planet in that regard. Weight loss is really the big shit show from a data perspective.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yep. Microgreens, 6'3" to 6'4", 250, morbidly obese. Yeah, so COTG, I would highly recommend looking into some other metrics because it sounds like you can run circles around people. So I'm guessing you're not actually morbidly obese. It's just this BMI metric that might put you in that category.
Yeah, that's tough. Sorry, keep going.
Ryan referenced this one. Doctors spend time protecting your feelings and protecting your health. Yeah, so I think we both agree, and I think a lot of us in this community already agree that Western medicine or doctors over in the US of A and Canada are reactionary as opposed to preventative. And although like a lot of this information is very well known and out there, that the preventative side is where there needs to be growth if we're going to see some real results and some real fruition come to enjoying some of these 5 stakes, man.
Facts on that one.
Kickers, thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you again next week. It was awesome to have. Government seats. This is what I was going to say right there before we moved on. Biffness is if there's no skin in the game, these guys, they're just transferring the risk. There's no accountability. So no skin in the game, like a business that doesn't need to turn a profit by pleasing customers, it's probably going to suck. 100% agree. So there's a book called Skin in the Game. There's a book called Fooled by Randomness. And then there is a book called, what's the other one I'm thinking of? They're all Nassim Taleb books.
I'll say this on that because I think that's a good comment. But there is a lot of skin in the game. And I think coronavirus helped convey that because you have a crazy reliance now on modern medicine. And this is with a virus that came over with what I think at this point up to current data, 99.7 or 99.8% survival rate. People know that if something different comes over or gets brought here or starts here with a slightly more deadlier rate than that things are going to get very difficult, and overall health is a big deal. So the point is the system can't exist. Our economy, all these things can't exist if you have half the country having issues with viruses in the future, whether it be the flu or otherwise, So the point is I think governments very much do have skin in the game. This is very much so a very eye-opening experience to see just how much obesity is going to really dictate future geopolitical situations. And not to get too off topic with that stuff, but just to basically say that I think in the past they haven't had skin in the game, which is why they're able to just be laissez-faire about it and not really give a shit. But now we're in a point where it's like, yeah, the elite, everybody that's enjoying their lives, they can't exist if the whole country can't actually operate because everybody's in the hospital on a ventilator or this or that because of pre-existing health conditions, making it 100x more likely for that to be the case. So what I'm saying is I'm looking at the chart on a macro analysis. People are looking at the month to month. Zoom out. We were supposed to hit 50% obesity rate by 2030. We hit it in 2021. That's a 9-year parabolic rise in where that was supposed to be hit. So in another 10 years, we're probably gonna be at 80 to 90% if we don't even remotely try to stop what's going on. Think of what's gonna happen if another 30, 40% of the country is even an even worse spot. And I'm not saying just obese, like even morbidly obese, because we're obviously shifting up higher and higher in the scale. It's not just like, hey, we're obese and you stop there. You can keep gaining weight, of course. So the point is, I think governments will very much so have skin in the game because I mean, let's be frank, you can turn off an entire economy now. And I think that's going to be a big deal in the future. I think every country that every one of them has been dealing with coronavirus to some capacity. Everyone is aware of this, and everybody's looking at the data. Whether or not they want to be transparent about it or not is another thing entirely. But the smart ones are obviously looking at the data and knowing what's really going on and what could happen in the future. So I think they have a lot of skin in the game. They're not admitting such because they don't want to scare people, to be frank. And that's just me being super honest, because I care about people a lot and I want this problem to go away, but I see where it's going. It's like hacks. Like you see where it's freaking going, like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that. I feel like I'm one of the only people who are actually talking about it. That's all. But it'll probably suck regardless, to be fair to him.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to push back a little bit because I do like the point you made right there. I think when I'm going to agree with Bitfinesse when they say governments have no skin in the game is because the individual does not. And it turns into like a big signaling circus where they try to do the best thing, quote unquote, or air quotes or whatever. So the intention with the BMI, they were like, somebody probably introduced it and was like, hey, this is a nice idea. This, if you're in this range, it looks like you live longer. And they all just kind of friggin' pumped each other's tires and were like, oh yeah, wow. They have no repercussions or no like individually. So like as a government, I kind of hear the point that you made there, Ryan. But like as an individual who like kind of makes up and consists or kind of creates that structure, you have there's no downfall. Like if your nice idea with a good intention kind of turned out to be shit. There's that. I think that's where Bitfinesse is coming from, and that's where I usually come from when I say like, hey, the government has no skin in the game. It's because they're gonna sit like coronavirus went on. Shit, I said the word. We might get friggin' cut now.
Shoot, I think I said it like 3 times.
So the thing started and it's been going for 2 years. Bunch of people lost their job. Bunch of businesses got put out, and all these people in office collected their paycheck like it was nothing else, and they got their quarterly raise. They got this, they got that, right? So really, no matter what policy they push forward, it really didn't affect. Like they took on no risk. They were not accountable.
That's fair.
That's the big thing there. I think like if he's relating back to some of that Nassim Taleb stuff that I've read on. But yeah,
I think I was projecting too far in the future of like, hey, government also doesn't exist if half the population is in the hospital. None of it works.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I was going with it, but that makes tons of sense.
Yeah, we need these taxpayers to pay their tax. We're gonna make sure that
straight up, the system doesn't work. If obesity keeps going the way it's going, the system doesn't work. Coronavirus was an obvious situation where you could see what's going to go down if any other virus, no matter how it gets here, with even slightly higher death rate on it. That's it. That's all she wrote. Like that's it, man. The pre-existing health conditions are there. The CDC has it on their website all the time. They update it all the time. Just nobody wants to have that conversation. Like someone said earlier, doctors preserve people's feelings. Politicians do the same thing. So if we can't trust the American public to have the honest conversation, which that's the way they're handling it right now. Then the problem's going to likely continue to get worse until the government really does have a serious skin in the game, and they will come in, but it's only because they do have skin in the game now. Like you said, they don't have skin in the game yet, so they don't give a crap. They don't give a shit, but when they do have skin in the game, and then all the care and effort is going to be coming in. It's like, guys, where were you 30 years ago? This got bad in the 2000s. This isn't the 90s anymore. You can't get by on 2,000 calories a day in America. People are eating 4,000 calories a day in America. This is, this is crazy now. You like literally waited until the casino was on fire and exploding before you came in and said, oh, there may be a problem here. It's like, what chart have you been looking at? The hex chart, but for obesity? Like that's what you've been looking at? And you just decided now to get involved? I digress. But it's crazy stuff, man. It's crazy stuff.
We got Valiant Brand stopping by.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, man. And if you are currently watching and you don't follow him, go and follow him and watch his streams. Lots of great info revealed there. Lots of alpha, as they call it nowadays.
Is that the new phrase of getting so old and falling behind?
he's leaking that sweet alpha,
Oh my god.
I believe
That's kind of
is
funny.
what they're looking for
Makes
nowadays
sense.
on CT or crypto Twitter. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably a good time to start cutting it. See if people have questions.
Yeah, that's
Final
pretty good.
questions.
I think that's pretty long. So let's stick there. Maybe just reference back to what we tried to really hit. I think for the last 20 or 30 minutes, we were probably on questions and
Yeah.
chat stuff. So really, we were just trying to set up how to time or how to correctly time your weight loss phase and really looking to structure it in terms of all potential variables, especially ones that you might not consider. So a traditional way to look about or to look at weight loss or a traditional way to incorporate it oftentimes is when you're preparing for a vacation or preparing for whatever the heck it may be. I'm going to be in a bathing suit at this particular time of year. And lots of times that leads to an environment that's going to create like a rebound that is greater than it might be typically. So even though it's pretty um, it seems like an attractive idea to say, hey, I want to lose weight for my vacation when I'm at the beach. When we talk about like the actual like underlying physiology that's happening, it's probably going to do you worse in the long run. So I think both of us were advising for um, putting your like playing your chips moderately. So Ryan had the casino analogy and being really moderate in your bets and not like betting it all on one go or one spin and really trying to approach it with some structure, some reasoning and some logic so you're not getting absolutely banged up and chipped out and getting screwed by the house or by the casino. Because it is the more time you spend there, the tougher and tougher it gets. So I think how to correctly time a weight loss and like approaching it with all the information available is going to lead to greater outcomes or more success, as opposed to being more so at the will of kind of like your wants or your emotions. Like, oh, I'm going to be on a beach. I want to look good. Let's lose some weight for my vacation. You go on vacation for 2 weeks. You gain more than you lost in the 2 weeks leading up
Terrible,
to that.
man.
In the 2 weeks leading up to that time,
All the
that
time, man.
that would be terrible, and that
All the
happens
time.
all the time, all the time. So,
Dude, fun fact, every client I've ever worked with has always hit lower lows when they have gotten out of the casino a couple weeks early. And I'm going to say these terms, right? Lower lows, like with charting. They've hit lower lows and held them by getting out of the casino early, i.e., like maybe 4 to 6 weeks before the vacation, because you
mhm,
may actually need 25 to 3,000 calories a day if you're going to Hawaii and day drinking. I don't know. That's just me being a realistic American thinking about what I would do if I was in Hawaii. So
oh,
why
honey
would I want
P.
to be in a deficit at low calories? My body and metabolism is used to 1,600 calories a day and losing weight, and then subjecting it to
Mhm,
1,000 calorie surplus immediately after, and then celebrating and wasting down the drain 6 weeks of hard work. Why do that?
yeah,
Get out when you're ahead, take your winnings, reverse diet, do these things that we're going to be talking about in subsequent episodes, and secure your winnings. And that will allow you to structure and understand your time frame of things. Hey, maybe I go to the
yep,
weight loss casino 3 times. Great. That'll probably get you to where you need to go. People forget that typically we do this all the time with our relationships. College, for example, all these things are structured in the way that makes sense with breaks, with
mhm,
downtime, and it's not all at once, all the time, go, 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 which unfortunately we operate on that wavelength with our professional careers, college, relationships, but not, you know,
yeah,
not with health, which is crazy because it's like, what's worse, turning it on for 3 months and then turning it off for 20 years, or turning it on 70% of the time for the rest of your life? I don't know.
yeah,
Obviously the latter, but so structure is huge. If you are guys are getting here late, I went into it pretty in detail at the beginning part of the stream. So like the first, like probably like half hour or so. So yeah, if you're just getting here late, rewatch it. Let us know what you think. Tell us if we suck. Tell us if we're good. The usual.
yeah. Share it if you want.
We're
Share
still
it if you
new. We're very
if
new.
you found some value. Hit the like. Share it for us. I think a really good segue for next week, and I think this is what you already have, Ryan, or already had, is maybe we'll get into some detail about what actually happens with your metabolism in
Ooh,
a
it's gonna be a good
diet
one.
phase, right? So in a energy deficit, or what happens in a surplus phase. So I think, yeah,
It's gonna be a good one.
can you have a bad metabolism? Is that a thing? Can you damage your metabolism? Is that a thing?
Right? As
Can
we
it
get
be
older, our metabolisms
right?
are dying.
Can it be slow? Can it be fast? Can I look at my brother or my buddy and be like, hey, my brother's the same height, the same weight as me, but he's got such a fast metabolism. He can eat 2 pieces of cheesecake and I can only have a half. Like, does that make sense? Do those things add up? I think that's going to be a good place to go next week, is talk a little bit more in detail about metabolism and what some of these, especially like some of these hot terms mean. Like, do you have a damaged metabolism? Do you have a slow metabolism? Do you
That
have a
verbiage.
fast metabolism? Some of that stuff, and what that actually means, and like how you can actually go about affecting that and changing that.
Dude, absolutely. That's going to be a
Yeah,
hot topic. I'm sure we're going to get some interesting comments there.
awesome.
But yeah, share the show if you guys have found value for sure. We're still new. We're new to Discourse Syndicate. And try to bring the Hexagon community just as another, bring it all the way back. Trying to bring to the Hexagon community a different mindset and approach to overall health and wellness, nutrition, understanding all these things, the data analytics for this stuff. We're not bros here throwing you bro science. This is what you guys need to know to be successful for the rest of your lives, whether or not we're locked down again with another virus, going to the gym every day, or somewhere in between, whether you're eating pizza every day or not. Once again, this is all about understanding all these concepts so you can make the best decisions for yourself. So we're really excited to keep bringing this to you guys over the coming weeks.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
I think that is going to be it. That's all. That is just about the 2-hour mark for us. We will see you guys on Monday next week at the same damn time, 8 o'clock Central.
Sounds good.
6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. What's the other one? 7 o'clock Mountain.
8 o'clock Central.
8 o'clock Central.
There you go.
All right, guys. Thanks again, and we will see you next week.
Sounds good.
Later.